Hello and welcome back to the regular season finale edition of the LA Times College Football Roundtable. I am Ryan Kartje, the LA Times USC beat writer, joined as always by Ben Bolch, our UCLA beat writer. Ben, we've reached the end of the road. Your football season is officially over. Mine has, one more game left in it, presumably maybe in El Paso for New Year's Eve, maybe in the LA Bowl, fingers crossed, earlier than that. But as we're sort of looking over the wreckage of these two teams' seasons, what kind of stands out about the season that UCLA had?
I think it was interesting, right? Because it went from total disaster to like, okay, we did all right. We kind of met our threshold. And now, we feel okay about things going forward. I felt like that last game against Fresno State was only a win wasn't going to say anything, but a loss could have been really, really hurtful for their recruiting and momentum going into next season. So they avoided that. They beat the Bulldogs, avoided that scenario. So, before the season, I think the Vegas odds was 4.5 wins for UCLA. I said, 4 or 5 wins with a win over USC would have been successful. They didn't beat SC, but I still think there was enough there and enough improvement in the second half of the season to kind of sell this program going forward. And that's kind of where they are right now.
It's crazy how much both of their seasons kind of turned on that crosstown rivalry game. UCLA, if they had made a bowl, is looking at the season as a success, I would think. Meanwhile, USC, if had they missed a bowl, it's an even bigger disaster than it already is, which is, certainly not a great situation. USC finishes with a loss to Notre Dame, 49-35. Now, granted, they were in this game until midway through the fourth quarter, down one touchdown and driving, and Jaden Mayava throws a 99-yard pick six on a miscommunication between him and receiver Kyron Hudson. So next drive, another pick six, and suddenly USC's season was finishing kind of in a perfectly fitting way. It seemed like just some promise, but ending in disappointment. And I think that's a perfect way to put this season. 6-6 in Lincoln Riley's third year is, by all accounts, a massive disappointment. We haven't really heard from Lincoln Riley yet, just his explanation or his thoughts about the direction of the program. But I don't think you're going to find many people who are pleased with the direction that things are heading. Through the worst 2 year stretch of Clay Helton's tenure at USC, he was only 2 games better than where Lincoln Riley is at right now. So that's just not acceptable for a coach that you're paying, over $10 million a year. And there needs to be some soul searching here in these next few weeks. But that said, I think USC kind of finds itself similar to UCLA in a place where there are really no certainties moving forward, only a ton of questions.
Yeah, as I wrote, the moment that UCLA lost the rivalry game, the most important date on the calendar became December 9th because that's when the transfer portal opens. And so much of these teams' fates for next year is going to be determined in the next few weeks, right? I mean, how much proven high-end talent can they both bring in? UCLA's got a ton of openings that are going to come up. 26 seniors left. Carson Schlesinger, Butkus Award finalist, probably going to go to the NFL. They've got players like Quasi Gilmer, the star freshman receiver, J. Michael Sturdivant, who had a big game against SC. These guys could all command a lot of money on the open NIL market. Not sure that UCLA is going to be able to keep all these guys in addition to all the big losses like Jay Toya, basically 9 starters at least on defense. So they're going to need to do some serious reloading. These next few weeks are going to be pivotal for the Deshaun Foster era. He's going to have to bring in some guys he can plug and play immediately. They do have what's shaping up to be a good high school class coming in, but I think only a handful of these guys realistically can play as freshmen. So a lot is going to be determined here in the next few weeks, Ryan, and I'm assuming that's the same for USC.
Before we get to USC, where do you feel like the biggest question mark is, or the biggest
Oh, yeah.
need in terms of the transfer portal for UCLA?
Well, it might not be the biggest need, but the biggest question mark is do they go after a proven quarterback? Because, interestingly, we did see what Justin Martin, the redshirt sophomore, can do in a tough situation. He had a good game against Penn State. Now, they didn't win that game, but he completed a high percentage of his passes, I think 73%, threw for a touchdown, no turnovers, and look like somebody who could be, your starter going forward. Are you going to go on that potential with just a little bit of experience, or are you going to go and try to get somebody who's done it maybe at the lower level, or somebody looking at a change of scenery from a Power Four conference? So that's the number one question facing UCLA. I asked Deshaun Foster about after the game, and of course he wasn't going to put his cards on the table, but he did say he has confidence in Justin Martin. So I think, either way, they're going to have a decent situation there because they do get somebody and he beats out Justin Martin. That means that he's going to be a pretty high level player.
USC has its own questions at quarterback. Obviously Jaden Mayava finishes the season as the starter, finishes 2-1 in the last three games, and in that game that he lost, aside from the pick sixes, had a lot of big time throws. Clearly has the talent to lead this offense next season. The question is, does he have the polish? Does Lincoln Riley sort of see his ceiling as high as another quarterback in the transfer portal? Because at this point, Lincoln Riley can't really just settle for developing someone who's not ready to step in. He has proven in the past that he can take a quarterback out of the transfer portal and have immediate success with it. He did it many times, and several of them won Heisman's and were drafted number one overall. So uh, I'll be very curiously watching the quarterback market. But actually, even in a bigger sense, I think the biggest question mark is the defensive front for USC. They may be able to add some reinforcements, maybe some that can have an immediate impact in their recruiting class starting later this week. I know five-star defensive lineman Jakeem Stewart, is kind of been rumored to commit to USC sooner rather than later. But you know, a freshman is only going to do so much, I think, in terms of remaking a whole defensive front. Lincoln Riley's going to have to go get some guys in the transfer portal. Some sort of edge rusher, I think, is a must at this point. This is a team that finished, near the bottom of college football in sacks. Their leader in tackles for loss was Eric Gentry at the end of the season. He's been out for half the season. That's just unacceptable in terms of a team, trying to play defense in the Big Ten. And I think, they can really determine the direction of where this defense goes, especially with a coordinator who they feel really good about in Dan Lynn.
Yeah, off-season coaching changes are going to be in the works, I think, at UCLA. The big question is, can they keep Kaika Malloy, who did a fantastic job, was nominated for the Burroughs Award that goes to, top assistant coach in the country. Can they keep their defensive coordinator, or are they going to lose, another Dan Lynn style departure where he gets a raise to go somewhere else? There is a report, the Bruin Report Online has reported that Demetrius Martin, the former UCLA DB coach, is coming back in some capacity. It's not clear exactly what, but he's, a big time recruiter, and that could help them out and maybe land them some guys who, wanted to go to Michigan State where he was. But it sounds like it's not going to be an entirely intact staff. And, I hope to get some clarity when we talk to Coach Foster later in the week about kind of what he foresees there. He already basically said they acknowledge the job that Malloy has done and they want to keep him and do everything they can to.
Yeah, I'm not sure we'll see any changes on USC staff. I know some people have called for USC to make a change at offensive line coach. Josh Henson has had some moments in the past couple of years where he sort of questioned the direction that group is heading, but we really saw them develop over the course of this season. And while they ended on a bit of a tough note against Notre Dame, I don't think that would be enough to make a change there. But USC very pleased with its defensive staff and the receivers coach Dennis Simmons, who I think is maybe it's the one position where you might think a change could be made. That's one of Lincoln Riley's closest confidants. They go on a big fishing trip every year together. I just don't see anything happening on that front. We'll learn more from Lincoln Riley later this week. But so many questions to be answered on both sides of this crosstown rivalry over the course of the next several weeks, starting with signing day on Wednesday. Ben, I know we'll have our own little recap via video then, but as UCLA heads into signing day, just one quick thing: what player, what position are you looking at most?
Well, it looks like edge rusher is going to be, one of the most key things there for UCLA. Can they keep, I'm going to mispronounce his name, Citanelli. He went to, the highest rated player in their class. He went on a visit to Ohio State this weekend, and they're trying to flip him. So UCLA has got to hold on to him. He's the highest rated player in their class at a huge position of need. Now, I was laughing a little bit because the one game he went to, not only did they lose, but they had a melee post game and got, fined $100,000 for all that flag messing around stuff. But certainly Ohio State's an impressive place for any high school recruit to go visit. So that'll be the number one thing to watch. Is he going to stick with UCLA? Because he would be among the guys who could come in and play immediately. So that's my number one story going into signing day. Are they able to hold on to Epi?
I'll just say this. I don't get the flag planting. I don't get why people are so mad about it. I don't get why people are so determined to do it. I mean, I thought it was cool when Baker Mayfield tried it that one time, but then you have everyone doing it. I don't know. I think we need a slower roll on that.
Well, it seems to be a thing, right? Because it also sparked a big problem at the North Carolina State game, and I know that UCLA has positioned a player at midfield to avoid the Trojans putting the sword into the field at the Rose Bowl. So something to watch. Always touches a nerve whenever anybody does that.
Just really quick on the USC front, obviously a ton of movement in this class, flips galore. I think we're going to see more coming into signing day. I don't even know where to start in terms of, who's likely to keep with their commitment, who's likely to trade their commitment from some other school to come to USC. So much movement on that front, and we'll recap it all on Wednesday. Ben, thanks as always for joining us, and thanks everyone for watching through the course of this season with our game recaps. We'll continue this on through basketball season, maybe a little bit less frequently, but one last one for football, presumably here with signing day coming up. So definitely make sure to tune in for that.